Hello, and welcome back to top 16 of the Smogon low tier draft tournament. Today we are playing against Sablo, which I think is an admin with Smogon, or he has some kind of admin duties. He's a very good battler. I've watched a few of his games, or I've actually caught up on all his low tier games at this point. And he's very talented. He's very good at knowing his win cons. And if you look at his team, you know that it's not just his battling that's good, it's also his draft. So he has a lot of offense, a lot of things that can set up, along with plenty of hazards. He's got the Sandy Shocks, the Bramblegast, and the Glamet that can actually just hazard stack me. So obviously keeping hazards away is going to be our first priority. Second priority is not to get swept by his team. I know he really likes Calm Mind Tinted Lens Braviary, and he also really likes the Fairy Terra on it. He's brought it 5 of 9 weeks, I think. He also likes the bulk up Trailblaze Tauros, which, as we've seen, it's coming against me at least one other time. He also really likes Swords Dance Bisharp, sometimes with Substitute and Leftovers instead of Eviolite, which is pretty cool. And then he actually does like bringing Glamet quite a bit. The only mon he doesn't really bring that often is Stantler, and I don't anticipate it to come versus me. So let's look at the team. So the team we're bringing this week is a little different than usual. We do have some usual suspects, but we are bringing Toedscool back for his second week. His slot was originally Talonflame, but I've noticed that every time my opponents have the opportunity to run Toxic Spikes, they bring them. And Glamet just hard walls Talonflame, scares it out with a power gem, and I can't defog until later in the game. And then every time I pivot Talonflame into defog, Glamet just comes back in and resets hazards. So I thought Toedscool made a little more sense into it because I can just rapid spin the hazards away. It will get rid of the toxic spikes from toxic debris immediately. We've got Foul Play to catch the Bramblegast, kind of how we caught the Decidueye the last time we brought Toedscool. Earth Power is just good for helping us stop things like Bisharp from setting up a substitute. And then Leech Seed, the fourth move I wasn't sure on, but I know that if he does get rocks up multiple times and he does things like hit me with Earth Powers, Power Gems as I switch into Sandy Shocks with Toedscool, which is his other job, I know I will get whittled down, and it's kind of hard to keep Toedscool healthy. So I thought instead of Giga Drain, we'll go with Leech Seed, try to get some health back, and that also helps us pivot into things like the Dunsparce to set up later. We've got a similar Gastrodon that we brought against Tauros last time. It definitely takes one Trailblaze. It's meant to take 2 Jolly Trailblazes, but if he does get at least one bulk up, then it will KO us. The second one will. So we're going to try to keep it clear smogged away. Earth Power is just really good coverage into his team. And then we've got Stealth Rock to hopefully whittle him down. I did do one mock battle, and my opponent switched like crazy against me, so I thought rocks would help a lot. One of our 2 big win cons this week is the Mismagius. One of Sablo's 2 losses in the regular kind of Swiss season was against a Thunderwave Hex Mismagius, and it is really strong into his team. But there are some things that I would rather burn than paralyze, like the Bisharp. So we've got the Willow, the Thunderwave, the Substitute, and the Hex. If we can get a status on the Bisharp, then Hex should be doing enough to get rid of a substitute, unless it's like max Spadef Eviolite. But even then, if it's burned, then that's great for us because we can pivot around. We've got the Choice Scarf Gallade. This actually isn't the final moveset. I did end up switching Encore to Shadow Sneak. I thought it helped a lot more into an Agility, Calm Mind, Braviary if we needed just a little bit of extra chip. Otherwise, it's pretty standard. We see it a lot of weeks. You know, Psycho Cut, Sacred Sword do insane damage if we call what Pokemon's coming in on it, and we've got the trick to give away the Scarf, trap something like Glamet in. Although I do think we want to keep the Scarf until the late game. It might help us set up with things like the Dunsparce and the Mismagius if we can get the right thing locked in. We've got the Grimmsnarl. Originally was Babiri Berry with Drain Punch to help us 1v1 Bisharp, but I kind of want to use it as setup fodder if I can. So I'd rather have Play Rough as better general coverage. We've got the Taunt, Parting Shot, and Thunderwave. Parting Shot, I was worried against Bisharp at first because dropping its stats means it would actually get 2 Defiant boost. But because Dark is immune to Prankster, we don't have to worry about it. So it's pretty free to just click that, and then I can hard switch out on Bisharp the next turn. Taunt is really good to stop him from setting up. I know he really likes to keep the pressure on, so any opportunities to set up he gets, he will probably go for. So just being able to taunt anything that isn't Bisharp is very nice. We've got Thunderwave. Again, if we can slow things down, that sets up a great endgame for Mismagius. And then the final set is one that I played with a lot. We've got the Dunsparce with Stored Power this week. Psychic is another new Terra type we've never brought before. We've got a Keyberry. Very defensive on both sides and max health. So it really tanks most hits It really doesn't get 2-hit KO'd by anything except for like a Choice Specs, Hurricane, Sheer Force, Braviary. And if I get a Calm Mind up, I might be able to roost in its face. If he runs defensive, I'm also faster than it. And we want to bring the Dunsparce into either the Brambleghast if it shows up, the Bisharp if it shows up, or even the Talonflame going for U-turn on us, because we want to get at least one rattled speed boost. 2 speed boost means we always outrun the Sandy Shocks. And then we want to get that defense boost off of our Keyberry. That means a non-burn Bisharp will always not 2-hit KO us, if that makes any sense. So we'll be able to set up on a Bisharp. We'll be able to set up easier on a Tauros. And we have the Earth Power there to hit specifically Bisharp for when we do want to KO it. And then Stored Power just runs through the rest of his team. This should beat most versions of Braviary. If he does bring Tinted Lens, which I'm not sure because I only have 1 flying resist and it's Magneton, I think that it might beat us 1v1 if it's another Calm Mind variant, but at that point we just try to keep it low health and finish it off with the Gallade. So that's kind of our plan. If we lose here, I'm totally happy making it to top 16 and being able to play against some really talented battlers, but also if we can make it to top 8, that's great too. So without further ado, let's get into the battle. All right, and we are back. I had to make one small change because I completely forgot this was a pre-DLC league and Keyberry was in the DLC, so we're not able to bring that. But the cool thing is, my mock friend, J-Scurf, actually called it correctly that he would bring Brambleghast over Talonflame. I really did not anticipate Bramble in my initial build, so that mock has really helped. So big shout outs to him. That does mean he doesn't handle Scarfed Gallade all that well if I can call what Pokemon comes in correctly. We also see that Braviary is the Electric Terra. So what does that tell us? Toedscool's pretty good into it, all things considered. So that's good to see. Electric should mean Grimmsnarl. The Dunsparce sets up on it pretty well. We do want it to Terra as soon as possible, so I'm kind of hoping he leads it. If we look at his typings, now that we've deleted out, he's pretty weak to Ghost. He only has the Bisharp resist, so Mismagius is pretty important. We will lead with Grimmsnarl. He leads with the Bisharp. That's a good lead because it's completely immune to most of the things I want to do. I do have a couple of good switch-ins to it. Gastrodon's very physically defensive this week, so it can definitely take a hit. But Gallade's also fairly free. It takes at least 1, and I can trick it afterward. I don't want to get rid of my Scarf if I can help it, but against a Bisharp lead, I might have to. I kind of wish I was still the Babiri Drain Punch now, but what can you do? Yeah, Gallade always lives 1. Does it live 1 into a Sucker Punch? No, but that's okay. Gastrodon also. Oh, Gastrodon takes this easily. Okay, so he doubles into Glamet. So that was a good call, expecting me to either hit him with a physical attack or not be able to taunt otherwise. I do have my Spinner in Toedscool. I think I will go immediately. I'd love to get rocks up here, but I think that's greedy. So we'll just double into Toedscool. He goes for the T-Spike, so he's not relying on the toxic debris to poison me. I think here the obvious play is Bramble. This one-shot's offensive Bramble. So we will try to call it. Maybe he stays in, hard calling us, or maybe he's something like Sash and can live in Earth Power. But trying to spin here is just not really getting me anything because I will be forced to switch out. So Bramble does come in. We hit it with a Foul Plate. We do one-shot it. Nice. So Spin Blocker's gone, but he can threaten our Toedscool. Although I don't think there's anything that can one-shot me except a fast Braviary. So do we think he's fast? I mean, Hurricane's not knocking us out. If he's like Sheer Force Life Orb, maybe? That's kind of crazy. Yeah, Sheer Force knocks us out, but Toedscool's really good into his other Pokemon, but these T-Spikes are just so annoying. Mismagius is pretty free here. Really, I just need to force the Braviary out. So I think we go Gallade. Slade looks so good into his team. We could go Grimmsnarl as well and try to get a Para. Well, he's Terra Electric, so I guess we can't get a Terra. So that's not great. And we don't want to switch into too much because of the poison. I will just go into Grimmsnarl for now, see what he wants to do. Does just drop a Hurricane, does 50% even. The confusion's annoying. So we can get an idea of his set. So he's not Sheer Force, or if he is, he's not invested. Yeah, that's standard max special attack, no Sheer Force. So we can parting shot, try to get through the confusion. Bisharp might just switch in here. I don't think it's worth my time to double. I think that's a pretty bad play. I will just go for the parting shot. If Bisharp comes in, that gives me the opportunity to potentially spin. He might double back into the Braviary, and if he does, that's a pretty good play. So yeah, it's not Sheer Force Life Orb for sure, or that would have done a lot more. That would have almost OHKO'd. Should never OHKO though. It's good that we got rid of Bramble immediately. I'm glad we confirmed that it was offensive, because when I did my mock, it was a defensive Bramble with Leech Seed, and without Toedscool, that is such an annoying set to deal with. Grimmsnarl is pretty important to this battle still. It is a kind of a catch to non-substitute Tauros to Thunderwave. We can taunt the Sandy Shocks to stop it from spiking us, as well as Glomet, but otherwise, I guess it's not the most useful thing. He might just go for a Terra Electric here, but if he does, then the switch into Miss Magus is pretty free at -1. And if we lose Grimmsnarl here due to a 30% confusion, then that's just part of the game. Because I think it's not worth us trying to get fancy and double and throw away a win con to keep Grimmsnarl alive. I do need to get rid of this Toxic Spike. He knows I need to get rid of the Toxic Spike, so I think he will be doing some doubling on either Glomet or Sandy Shocks to try to prevent me from spinning. But the Braviary is the only thing that, I think the only thing that stops me from spinning. I think I EV'd, I put a ton of defense into Toedscool. So yeah, he's got to be banded Tauros to even have a chance to knock us out. Okay, so we do get the parting shot. I do think that means we can go into Miss Magus pretty freely here. Doesn't get poisoned. He misses the second Hurricane, which is gonna happen. You know, it is 70% move. Maybe he's wide lens, 77%. Still not great odds. I will just go for a sub, anticipating him to want to switch in something. If it's something, I outspeed everything that's not Scarfed or Booster in the case of Sandy Shocks. So I think sub is a decent play, kind of get an idea of his intentions. Does a -1 Hurricane, it probably breaks sub, right? Braviary's really strong. Yeah, -1 still breaks sub, but he's got to land the Hurricane, which sometimes is difficult. So I think we have Grimmsnarl toxic. We can't let Dedun get toxic by the spike, but anything else is fair game. I think we can make do. So he does Terra Electric. We got our sub up. He Hurricanes, it breaks it, but we can continue subbing, and he's got to miss a Hurricane eventually, right? Like, that Hurricane's doing 35%. Our Hex is only doing like 25% to him, but once we burn it, we'll be doing about half. So we'll go for another sub. Esper Wings to gain speed. Okay, so a little scarier. I will go for the burn here. Okay, he's Calm Mind as well. So we do land the burn. So he's set up a Calm Mind. That's pretty scary. And he's at +1 speed. He outspeeds our Miss Magus, which means he outspeeds everything else naturally except for our Gallade. Hurricane Esper Wing, probably Roost last, right? I will just go for a Hex here. It should still do decent damage. Hurricane almost knocks us out, and Hex does 41% to him, which is pretty nice. So Hurricane kind of just knocks out anything I want to bring in here, which is pretty scary. I do want to get Grim back in to either Parting Shot or Taunt, stop the setup. Also, it would be really nice to get Gastro in to clear Smog. So even though I'm going to get poisoned on it, I think it's a necessary play. And we might get two-shot by Hurricane. Okay, just Esper Wings. That's a maybe KO on us. I don't think a Hurricane knocks us out from here. I will just clear Smog, get rid of his boost. He might Roost here, expecting us to not Ice Beam, but expecting us to go for like a ground move. It wouldn't. It might knock him out from here, but I think Clear Smog to slow him back down might be safer. Yeah, so Hurricanes, we get rid of the speed boost. We could have Earth Power there to knock him out. That might have been the better play, and now we've lost an answer. Oop, what? Grimmsnarl was switching in before I even clicked a button. That's kind of crazy. We definitely could have Earth Powered there because now he gets kind of a free Esper Wing. So what I can do is pivot Grimmsnarl in to prevent that. He won't Hurricane here, right? He might Roost. Would do something like 50%, so it would bring him back down to where he was. I could also recover. If he gets that +1 speed, I guess Gallade revenges regardless, but I'm just letting everything get poisoned, which is not the plan. He did lose his only ghost, so Gallade can actually spam fighting moves really easily into his team. I will just click recover. He does go for the Esper Wing. which is fine. He's a +1 speed. We do bring in Gallade pretty easily. And I will just go for the Sacred Sword. He doesn't have a switch in for it. And once this is gone, we can eventually spin, but the problem is our opportunity to spin is getting smaller because of Tauros being able to set up on us and us not having the Gastro to switch in on it. Very hard for us to deal with. I anticipated the set, but I still did not play very well around it. I should have definitely Earth Powered with Gastrodon. Although I guess that would have just given him a free +1 speed on Tauros. So maybe this is the better outcome. Think about his move. We are guaranteed faster no matter what. Luckily, I did EV that correctly. I think I EV'd us to always outspeed Bisharp without a Scarf. So it just happened to also line up to always outspeed Braviary because it is quite slow. So if he brings in Tauros here and tries to start setting up, he has to go for speed first, and then he can Raging Bull. But our Sacred Sword is doing like 80%, like 70 to 80%, and it pierces. So he can't bulk up first. We will always 2-hit KO. So odds of burning Bisharp, not very high. We really just need to get Toedscool in to get a spin more than anything. So I would love if he went Sandy Shocks or Glamet here. Even if he doubles out, I don't mind rapid spinning on Tauros or Bisharp, because then I can get a leech sheet up on the next turn and hopefully 1v1 them with one of my remaining Pokemon. So this Gallade is almost set to sweep at this point, really. I mean, a Sucker Punch from Bisharp does a chunk, but outside of that, I guess if you had Aqua Jet Tauros, that could be a problem. I'm thinking I definitely should have went for Earth Power on Gastrodon, but if he was last move Roost, then Earth Power would have just brought him back down to where he was. We would have taken an extra hit of poison, and then he would have still had that crazy amount of speed. So I think our only way of dealing with it there was actually to clear Smog. It was just the safest play. So our plan was, don't let things get poisoned. And our whole team, outside of the immunity and the Dunsparce, are going to end up getting poisoned. So I think that's a net loss for us, but that's okay. Can't win them all. So Tauros is the switch in, does intimidate us. Even with the intimidate, we're probably two-shotting, but I can also go Grimmsnarl, and unless it's substitute, we do get a Thunder Wave on it. So I think that is probably the play. If Grimmsnarl goes down, that's okay, because it won't die to a Trailblaze, and that means Mismagius can then come in and burn it. So we'll just pivot into the Grimmsnarl here. Keeping Gallade, I think, makes a lot of sense. I would like to just hit it with the Sacred Sword, but if it's bulkier, then it may take 2. And if it gets a chance to bulk up and Trailblaze, I think we just lose. So it might be substitute. I think one of the best ways to deal with Grimmsnarl is either Lumberry or just substitute. So if he brings that, it's a problem, but I also think it's hard to fit sub because he wants Trailblaze, Close Combat, and Raging Bull to hit everything on my team. So he is bulk up. Is he Lumberry? I'm a little nervous. Yeah, play rough, not the play. Parting Shot to get his attack back to neutral is an okay play, but I think we have to Thunder Wave. We do land. He is Lumberry, okay. But he does Raging Bull. So, that's not bad. He hasn't gotten his Trailblaze set up yet. So Gallade does one-shot it. We know he's Lum. Oh, Gallade does not one-shot it because Psycho Cut does not pierce. Yeah, we don't one-shot it with Psycho Cut. Huh. I mean, we can burn it with Maggie. I think that has to be our play, and that's a little scary. Adversely, we can go for Thunder Wave. Because slowing it down means that Dedun has a better time against it. Burning it means Dedun kind of just sets up on it as well, though. So do we want it to be slower than us by default? Or do we want it to be weaker? I think we want it to be weaker. So he is Aqua Jet. We may just lose here, to be honest. Because we can no longer burn it. Does a +1 Tauros ever knock out Toedscool? With Close Combat, it does. Or it has a roll. It's 88 to 103. So I can lock it in to whatever it would go for. But if I lock it into Raging Bull, then it doesn't matter. I'm surprised he was able to fit Aqua Jet. That means it's either no CC or it's no Trailblaze, which means Gastrodon would have given it a really hard time. So I think I have to trick it the Scarf. We have to hope Dedun can win this endgame. And he probably Raging Bulls. Raging Bull's worst case scenario. We don't want it to lock into that. But I think I have to bring this in. I think I do have to hit it. Either that or Toads and Rapid Spin. Get faster than it. Yeah, we got to go Toads. Hope we live a hit. We may not. I don't know that he's close combat. He might just be Trailblaze. So we'll see. Is Raging Bull. Okay, so he's not Trailblaze. So we do get rid of the Toxic Spike. He definitely Aqua Jets here, which makes me think I should keep this Toedscool as a sack. So we'll go into the Gallade. Actually, oh, shoot. Well, can't cancel now. Aqua Jet does. Dang it, 2-shot. So that's a little awkward. We can chip it now, at least, with the Sneak. Get Baby Chip on it. And it's Dedun versus the world. And unfortunately, because we're not the berry, we suffer a little more against this. So Dedun. If we Terra Psychic, Raging Bull is still potentially 2-shotting us. So I do think we Terra. Man, we can't really Calm Mind. It's scary because that Raging Bull is going to do a ton. Because if I look at the Gallade, the Aqua Jet from +1. Yeah, 41 to 47. So it's standard. So it's going to be a roll. Yeah, I threw by giving up Gastrodon so early, I think. And not having Keyberry definitely hurts. So I think we have to hope we get fortunate rolls. That's our only way to win. And it's not a great. Okay, holy. That's not supposed to do that much. That's adamant. Okay. Well, that's GG. Yeah, we let our answer go down to the Tauros. And that was our mistake. I really did not anticipate Aqua Jet. He either didn't have CC or didn't have Trailblaze. And that's just not the set I expected. And that's really cool. It's awesome that he brought that. And there we go. We're knocked out, but we made it to top 16. We get to focus a little more on our other leagues now, which is pretty sick. We're top 8 in a money league that you'll probably only see if we make it to the finals of right now. And then we do have playoffs coming up for the PGL. So we have at least a couple more videos coming your way. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this season, what you thought about the mons I drafted, if you think, we could have done things differently in this battle. Obviously, not letting the Tauros get set up was the play. I probably should have just hit it with Gallade because he did go for bulk up immediately. But there was no way for me to know he was going to be so aggressive with the setup on that turn, and I was worried. But, there were a lot of sets that could have still beat us, potentially because we were intimidated. And if he had gotten the bulk up and Trailblaze, we just didn't have a chance. So, yeah, super fun game. GG's to Sablo. We'll see you in the next one.